Practice Master. What's up, Greg?
What's up, Sean? What's up, everybody?
How you doing, brother?
Good.
So, Greg runs a major aspect of our business development here at Callagy Law. This is Sean Callagy. Welcome to Practice Mastery, webinar number 1. We're talking about the indispensable, the 5 indispensable elements to influence mastery. We did not get the right to use that song from Guns N' Roses, Greg. So if Axl sues us, you'll have to handle that, all right?
Well, I've been to 11 of his concerts, so I think I was due to that.
All right, so we'll do that, absolutely. So let's roll, folks. So we're here today to talk about influence mastery, as we discussed. And practice mastery is something that we've put together to truly help people move their business and their practice forward in a significant way. We're going to have some fun. But I promise you, the content we're going to deliver and talk about is going to be massively valuable. What do you got, Greg?
So we are starting right now. The topic is, what are the 5 indispensable secrets to influence mastery?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. What is practice mastery?
All right, real quickly, practice mastery. We can flip to the next slide real quick. Practice mastery is really something that we've put together and designed to help people create, practice their dreams, to really transform out of stress, pain, the challenging dynamics that exist, to get to a very different place. And you know, we live in a world today, right, Greg, everybody, that folks think that a lot of these discussion points are sort of fanciful. It's like, hey, you create this imagery that we put up at the beginning of somebody holding up their arms and acting like they're on top of a mountain. And in our practices and the things that we do, this is all entirely possible. And what we did with Practice Mastery is I used to have a coaching and training program that I sold, right? You remember that, right?
Absolutely.
When we first started working together, you were part of that. And, you know, that program helped people massively. I helped people make millions of dollars that I coached and paid for that program. Nothing that we're doing, I don't sell that program anymore. I'm not selling that program. And everybody who's listening, we're not selling anything to do with a coaching program. I've decided that we're going to give this information and content away massively. And people go, well, why are you doing that? Well, the why is we build relationships for the law firm. We get to know people. People refer us. People like us. People know our talent, our ability. And this program of Practice Mastery is going to involve 24 webinars. This is number 1. It's going to involve 4 different live sessions, repeated each 4 times with slight differences in the things we're going to practice related to the webinars. So there's actually 16 different live sessions, and there's 24 webinars, all coming in 2018. And for those of you that have heard me say that already and are aware of that, I can't stress to you enough, though, the critical importance of realizing this is a building process. And this is not a motivational program. It's not an inspirational program. It's a program of a technical skill set that brings about incredible results for people. And we're really here today to do some recap from live session 1A that we had at the Capitol Grill last week. But we're also here to talk about really getting into the skill sets of influence.
It has 24 webinars.
Yeah. 24 webinars, 4-hour sessions. Talk to that. Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, as far as why I could say this, you know, real quick, Greg, you throw that out there. You know, a lot of times, you know, people, I think that there's an element, you know, Dwight Gooden, not that long ago, started coaching kids in Bergen County, believe it or not, on how to play baseball. Now, Dwight Gooden is an incredible baseball player, and he certainly had great pitching coaches along the way. But there's a different question as to whether or not Dwight Gooden has studied how to become a great pitcher, right? Like Dwight Gooden was a great pitcher, but it's a different question if he had studied how to be a great pitcher. You know, maybe he was born with God-given ability that was utterly ridiculous, right? And he could throw a baseball 97, 98 miles an hour, and he could put it where he wanted to. And maybe he didn't have to work really hard at that. The materials and content when we're talking about practice mastery is a little different. It's an area that I've been studying for 2 decades. And that study and success has enabled me to do some really, really unique things. I had a 40-person law firm before I turned 30 years old. And I've never heard of somebody doing that before. And there's no bragging. I started studying like crazy. What is it that takes a person from point A to point B in terms of producing results? And I was able to learn that the ability to influence, we'll talk about what that means in a moment, was a fundamental part of it. We've had 2 top 100 jury verdicts in the country in the past 3 years. We have had an incredibly unique ability to lead, drive, build morale here. We took tests internally, Greg. I think you remember that about 6 months ago.
Yep.
And we were shatteringly against the curve in all these different areas. And all of that is related to doing things on purpose. So there's no bragging. And when these principles aren't applied here, we don't get the results we want either. Right. And so there's lots of things that are incredibly challenging. Practice Mastery, the entire program, is designed to help people understand how to break through those things. And these are things I've been studying for 2 decades, but enough about that. Like, obviously from the webinar, you're thinking that you're going to get some good content. So that's just a little bit of why you should be listening. The other piece is that you should be listening. We'll talk about that in a second. Guy, Greg, let's go forward.
So if you want to just talk about 3 aspects here that we're going to cover: live session 1A of the Capital Grill, the recap, 5 indispensable elements to influence mastery, and introducing the 4 steps to influence mastery.
Yep. So in case you're not sure what those second and third ones mean, the first one is really, we are going to recap the stuff that we did last time. In addition, we're going to, excuse me one second, close that door. Second, we're going to talk about, sorry about that, guys. We had a little technical difficulty there. Second, we're going to talk about the difference between the indispensable elements and the steps to rapport building. Right? I'm sorry, the steps to ultimate influence mastery. Good.
Okay. So, and this is 3 essential elements of success: state mastery, growth mindset, and I did want to go over those a little bit.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are they, right?
So, the first one's state mastery.
Yeah.
Second, growth mindset, and then the deep why.
Right. And these are the things we talked about the Capital Grill.
Exactly.
Right.
The recap.
So very briefly, to launch forward, I want everybody to have sort of, create a picture of this in your mind. What we're constructing is a process by and through which we're creating results and outcomes. And these 3 aspects are absolute must to have. So if you don't have mastery over your states, you're not producing results, because the way we interpret data and information has so much to do with our states. Like before we got on this webinar, what were we doing in the room, Greg?
Well, Sean was actually just doing push-ups.
That's true. Absolutely.
And I think I was singing a little bit, and I was jumping up and down, stretching out my legs, just trying to get the juices flowing and everything, positively enhancing our physiology.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, we'd be ready to go and deliver on this. And that's just one tiny aspect, right? We're all hit with tons of stress every day. The way that we handle and build our states is indispensable. We're not covering that today. We talked about it briefly in the Capital Grill. We'll have an entire webinar coming up on how we can master our states. Not only manage them, but master our states. Second, the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. We talked about at the Capital Grill also. And brief recap, amazing video by Dr. Dweck at Stanford. And that video is something I couldn't recommend to you more. It's a TED Talk. Just type in growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it's it really essentially discusses the concept that all success comes from our ability and desire to solve problems and believe that we can learn how to solve the problem. The fixed mindset believes that people are born with an inherent level of ability. So fixed mindset would say, I can't learn how to engage in influence mastery. Sean was born that way, or Greg was born that way. If we've done certain things, we can't learn how to do that. And that's a fixed mindset. So, and for me, let's say that if I had a fixed mindset, I would say that whatever level of success I've achieved currently, if I attempted to achieve a higher level of success and didn't, I was capped. Like I hit my ceiling. And that's what a fixed mindset says. So whenever you hit that stress or challenge, the fixed mindset says, I can go no further. The growth mindset says, I just have to learn a new set of skills from people who've done it before and break through. So indispensable for practice mastery is to master a growth mindset. And that's one that believes in learning, modeling, all of which we'll talk about, but we're laying down just these very brief fundamentals as you listen to this webinar today. And everything we talk about in practice mastery, quite frankly, everything in your life, be listening with an open and growth mindset. The fixed mindset listens and says, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense. They're just doing to promote their law firm. This isn't really good content. I can't do this anyway. Or even it's great content, I can't learn to do this. Fixed mindset. Growth mindset says, dude, if they could do it, I could do it. I could do it better. Right. And you absolutely can, right? Third is we truly have to sit back in this process and realize that everything we do is rooted in our emotional system. The most logical person that you're ever going to meet in your entire life, right, Greg, is going to believe that everything that they're doing is logical, and they're wrong. Everybody makes emotional decisions. Everybody makes emotional decisions. Everyone wants connection. They want to feel significance. They want to have a level of certainty, uncertainty, growth, and contribution. These are the 6 human needs. Don't worry about writing that down. We're just introducing this. But if you're not attached to your deep why, your deep emotional why, nothing will happen. Because we're driven by our desire to avoid pain much more than to gain pleasure. And so if we're confronted by challenge that might bring pain, the only thing to counterbalance it is what our why is. That's going to drive us forward and through that pain. And so if we're not attached to our why, and our why isn't deeply resonating in our nervous system, and we're regularly reviewing it, we're going nowhere. And when I talk to people and they talk about a legacy, they talk about some making major contributions in an area, let's say charitably. They talk about inspiring the people they work with, leading the people. Those are the types of resonating whys that change people. I have a dear friend, and he likes to talk about the fact that he's created millionaires on his team, and that means the world to him. That he's changed families of team members generationally. That's a powerful why. He loves nature. The fact that he donated 200 acres to the State Park Service to protect it for wildlife means the world to him. And that's so when he's challenged by things not going right in his business and learning new things, relying upon that deep resonating why is truly powerful. And we need to find that. So we talked about that at Capital Grille as well. You should have by now, if you're at Capital Grille. If not, we're going to talk about it more at dinner, live session 1B that's coming up soon on February 13th. We'll talk about it more. But we're just reintroducing these concepts, because even if you're listening to this and you hit a moment where you're feeling a little bit distracted or bored, it's your why emotionally that keeps you driving forward. So what do you got?
Well, number two, we have wheels give us what as the recap?
Sure. So real quickly, the wheels give us what? We also talked about at Capital Grille that after we figured out why and how that's driving us forward, the what in the process, right? The what in the process is figured out by our practice mastery wheels. And we handed out wheels at the last live session 1A. We're going to hand out wheels again at live session 1B on February 13th at the Crown Plaza in Edison. And the whole purpose of the wheel breaks our practice into the 4 areas. We're only taking a couple minutes on this just to make sure. Repetition, I love when Tony Robbins says this, repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition is the mother of skill. So it isn't enough to hear something. It's, are you implementing it? You only know it if you're implementing it. I know all about the wheels. Are you using them? Right? And if you're using them, great. Right? But we're going to talk about more how to use them. But if you're not, then hopefully we're provoking you, challenging you, making you think about using them. Mm-hmm. So real quickly, the first wheel of practice mastery is broken into 4 areas. Bringing in the business, doing the work, billing it, and collecting it. So we're going to rate ourselves in those areas. This is just a quick example. And let's say we're talking about bringing in the business, since we're dealing with influence mastery, or doing the work. And let's say in those areas, we're at a level 4 or 5 right now, right? If we're at a level 4 or 5 in those areas, then a key critical component is to figure out how to change that. And then you break it into a subwheel, which talks about, let's say, our sales. And sales breaks into a final 3rd subwheel of like the 8 areas of sales mastery. And one of those areas of sales mastery has to do with, or a couple of them have to do with influence mastery. And so the subject matter that we're in today is all about figuring out how to increase our sales, our marketing, our leadership, and getting people to do things. That's what we need to do.
Okay. And number 3, the results formula?
Absolutely. So again, we also talked about briefly introducing the fact that there is a results formula that we will discuss. That's really the backbone of the entire practice mastery program. It's the backbone of the whole thing. And it involves the notion that any result that we want to produce, so let's say we use our wheels and we would determine that we want to increase our sales. And we realize that one of the areas that we need to increase one of the reasons our sales isn't where it needs to be, first is because of our sales process. So process mastery is the first of the 3 aspects of the results formula. And process mastery would tell us we need to be at this many sales meetings. We need to have this type of follow-up process. We need to do this type of marketing. That's process mastery. If we're not doing the things that we want to be doing, the second component of the results formula is self-mastery. And self-mastery is all about getting ourselves to do the things that we know that we need to be doing. And there's going to be multiple webinars and a ton of stuff that we're going to do about both process mastery and self-mastery. The third component is where we are today in this webinar, influence mastery. And I give you all of that mapping because here's the most important thing I've said thus far today. I give you all of that mapping because this isn't a bunch of disconnected tips. It's an integrated practice mastery is an integrated formula and system to grow and build your practice, fully integrated. And so you need to kind of know where we are on the map. So you don't, like if you left today, you're going to leave with some awesome information. But if you treat it as like a couple of tips that were disconnected from anything else, you're going to get 5% or less of the benefit from today. If you see it in the context of, okay, I know there's a results formula. There's 3 components to it. And today I'm being introduced to certain aspects of the indispensable elements of influence mastery, which I know is one of the 3 components of the results formula. Got it. Now I know where I am. Because the idea of the results formula is so that if you're not getting a result in any area of your life, that you're able to know where you are. So essentially, Greg, and everybody out there, what we're talking about is kind of like learning geometry.
I was just thinking that. Literally, I was thinking.
Go ahead,
Yeah, I was just thinking in my head that it's literally like a mathematical equation. And if you're not getting the result that you want, you have to look to see where you were lacking, where you made an error. Because this is a science. This is really a science.
Absolutely. And the key thing, thank you for that, Greg. The key thing to understand is, you can't start solving more complex formulas in math unless you first learn the aspects of proofs in geometry. Right? A lot of doctors, and I read the geometry. You got to learn proofs, right?
A lot of people don't even know their arithmetic too, when it comes to business development.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So you can't fundamentally do anything unless you understand what's the prerequisites that are necessary. So we're talking very theoretical, right? Could be a little bit dense so far, right? So let's be very specific. Mm-hmm. Let's say this is why we need influence mastery. Let's say that one of the doctors or folks, marketing or driving practices that are listening in today. And by the way, I apologize for this. Thank you for being on today. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for being somebody that's a kindred spirit with what we believe in here, which is taking ourselves on and growing. And we spend an extraordinary amount of time training and learning new information and drilling on the information that we know and confronting ourselves. So thank you for listening and taking yourself on and your practice, your work, your career on. That is like tremendous, and that puts you in a very unique percentile of people, because not everybody that was at the first live session is listening to this webinar. And if you are, you're already distinguishing yourself in terms of your effort, desire to grow, and make things happen. And I promise you this content is going to help you do that. Just bear with the fact that some of this is going to be a new language. Some of this you might hear and go, oh, I know that. That's not the question. The question is, where are you on the scale of mastery? Not do you know it or not, but how tremendous are you at doing it? And do you know how to make it better, right? And that's the key. So what do we got, pal?
So to succeed here, we have number 1, believe you can learn.
Yeah.
Number 2 is believe value. Number 3 is write notes. Number 4, review notes. Number 5, practice. Number 6, measure your mastery growth.
Yeah. So those are the 6 things that in every webinar, on every live session, we need to be doing. There's studies at Dominican University that show if you write your goals, you're taking notes actively, that you're learning at a much more accelerated rate. So literally, if you're just listening to this, that would literally be like trying to learn calculus or geometry, excuse me, or a foreign language, just by sitting, listening, absorbing. You're not taking the benefit away. You're sacrificing, you're investing actually your precious time which is the most limited resource we have. We have 168 hours in every week. That's all we have. You're investing your time here today by listening to this. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. And hopefully you'll be thanking us for it. But take the benefit by writing notes. Take the benefit by reviewing your notes. Take the benefit by literally practicing the things we're about to get to in influence mastery, literally today. If you don't know what they are, right, you can't make them better. We're going to talk about those 5 indispensable elements. If you can't talk about those and reel them off, right, there's no capacity you have to get them better. It's like a professional athlete or high school athlete. How can you become a better hitter if you don't know the elements to hitting, right? It's utterly impossible. Then you're going to think that hitting is sort of, by chance. So if you're a doctor looking to build a referral relationship, if you're a doctor talking to a patient about whether or not to agree to a procedure or surgery, if you're a marketing or salesperson that works in an office, you're a billing or collections person that's leading, driving other people, and they're not doing what you want. And you know what you want is good. You know you're a great doctor. You know that your practice is great if you're selling for it. You know that you are a great leader, right? If those things are not happening, then you need to know why, right? And then you might think, oh, this person is just a bad person. No, but maybe it's your influence skills aren't where they need to be yet. And that's okay, and they can be. Or maybe if not enough people are saying yes, it's because you're not clear on how to appropriately convey your unique identity. So these things are indispensable elements to drive this whole process forward. And by the way, let me just say this. Greg is here. He's been very quiet. Greg is utterly amazing. Greg's booked over 1,000 appointments. And he is truly a person who's mastered many of the techniques of influence mastery at a very, very high level. And we're going to talk about them in a moment. So
sure.
Let's go.
Absolutely. So if you just listen, 5% or less of value would be like studying a new language or geometry by listening once.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So let's keep going.
Right. Once you've identified your desired results, grow my practice, for example, now what?
Right. So we've identified it, right? Let's say we're talking about, I'll go with what I perceive to be. And if you have any questions, by the way, you can type in questions and send them over. Right, Tiffany?
Yeah.
Okay. So type in any questions. We're happy to take them. But that's the question really is, like, you've identified your outcome, and your outcome is that you want to grow your practice, or your outcome is I want to get a more definite return on my marketing or my meetings, or I want to make sure that I collect more money. I want to make sure that the people that I ask do things, do them and follow through, whatever, or you're out there in sales and you want to be able to connect with people and convey the reasons they should work with you, whatever those reasons are. All those are just examples of influence mastery. It could be keeping our kids off drugs. It could be talking to a friend about spiritual beliefs. It could be talking to somebody about, helping out with a charity. Anything, right, of those things is what influence mastery is all about. And we're about to define influence mastery things. So let's keep going.
The results formula has 3 components.
Yeah, we talked about that. So let's keep going. Yeah.
So we did the process mastery, influence, and self.
Yeah. Okay.
Continue on.
Yeah.
What is influence mastery? Keep going, right? Do you want to break down the influence mastery aspects?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep.
Sure. So we have influence mastery is, I'll just go over the 5 real quickly. Number 1 being integrity field.
No, let's stop there. So,
sure.
1, I'll stop at each one, Greg, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
So number 1, because people hear the word influence and they think manipulation, they think harm in some way. And influence mastery is about integrity. So we're not teaching people how to deceive people and harm people. And I tell people all the time, I'm the worst. If you're the liar and you're the bad guy and you want to try to get over on somebody else, I'm the worst lawyer in the world for you. If you're the truth teller, then I'll take anybody on the planet, right? And we've done it, and we'll talk a little bit about that later and how some of that's fit in. So this is integrity filled.
I just going to make a point.
Yeah, please.
I think part of the limited mindset is feeling as if in some way you have to be inauthentic or even subtly manipulative in order to move things forward in a significant way. Oftentimes just being genuinely authentic, being very confident, having a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and speaking with integrity and compassion is really all you need. But there's brilliance in that simplicity. Right. It's not easy to get to, and this is what this is all about.
Yeah, and Greg potentially does the hardest job in the world, He calls people cold and talks to them about if we can help them with recovering the money their practices due. That's an incredibly hard job, right? Most people would never want to do that. Craig has an unbelievable ability to do it because he approaches it with absolute certainty and integrity that what he is talking about is truthful and genuinely beneficial. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I have very little inhibition. And then if I do feel, certain pangs of nervousness or then I can go back to the level of self-awareness, the personal mastery, the self-mastery comes into play there, where you want to correct your mindset, do what you have to do physiologically so you can come at it. But being conscious of where you're at energetically is a huge thing as well, because people want to feel as if they're speaking to somebody that knows what they're talking about, that is confident. So all of this stuff just comes together.
Yeah, and we're gonna have specific webinars on the self-mastery component. But the self-mastery component. You're gonna keep hearing us use these words interchangeably because it's like you're learning pieces at a time. So that's coming, how to do that, and that's amazingly beneficial and complex, but very easy to implement once you truly understand it. So let's move on, my friend. So after integrity,
so we're educating others.
Yeah. That the mission of influence mastery is that you're educating other people. Sales, education, communication, leadership is all the same thing. It's all influence. Sales, educating, they're not different. And people, like we said about before, Greg, I'm talking to you on this the way I talk to the baseball teams I coach. The way I talk to the players internally, like, you really talk with this level of intensity and energy, like that's not manufactured. Yes, I absolutely do. Because I'm communicating about something that I'm trying to really get through and educate people about why this is beneficial. So you're darn right I do. Every single day. It's how I talk to my kids. It's how I talk to the people that work internally. It's how I talk to juries, judges, court, with great integrity and with a great desire to educate. And if we view influence mastery as an educational process and not one that we're trying to make people do something, that's the first critical step, right, to shifting some of our self-mastery.
Number 3 of your idea, information, or request.
Yep. So what are you educating them about? It's exactly that. Your idea, your information, or your request, right? That's all you're educating people about. And all of that, if it's integrity filled, is for their benefit. So that's what you're educating people about. 4th, Greg?
Having them accept it.
Yeah, right. So that's the next piece is after you're done educating, you can educate all you want. If the other person's not accepting it, where are you going? If you're trying to convince kids why they shouldn't drive drunk or do drugs and you're talking to them about it and they're not accepting it, you're nowhere. So the influence mastery, again, starts with the notion that you have the absolute integrity, that you're educating people about your idea, your request, things that your point of view. And 4th, that they accept it. You're not done because you're talking and you said it. And that's why I repeat things here. I'm trying to make sure you're accepting what I'm saying. I'm educating you. I'm repetitive. I'm trying to drive this home so you take away the benefit. And finally, Greg?
And take action on it.
Absolutely. Because even if you believe what Greg and I are saying right now, and the things we're going to talk about, if you're not taking action on it, it doesn't matter. Right? Then it's like, hey, I really liked that webinar. I felt it was pretty cool. They have good energy. I was kind of inspired. We failed. I failed. Then you wasted your time. We're trying to give you takeaways, right, from this. And this is the first major takeaway in influence mastery. What is it? It is these 5 things. It is integrity filled, hello, to acceptance of your idea, to the other person taking action on it. That is what influence mastery is. So if you meet somebody and you're like, hey, you know what? I want to buy their car. Well, you're influencing them. Why to make a fair deal to buy their car? If you want to hire somebody, recruiting somebody, it's hello. The idea is I want to hire you. You should be here. It's a great place to be. And then they accept it and move forward. It's sales. It's marketing. It's everything. That's what it is. Right there.
What are the essential elements of influence mastery?
Okay, so let's see what the 5, and there's going to be 5 of them. The 5 indispensable elements of influence mastery, right? This is kind of like I think we have maybe an image coming up on this. This is like making a cake. You need ingredients, right? And you can't just make a cake if you know how to cook the cake. We're going to get to cooking the cake. These elements are where the cake breaks down. So these are 5 things that you must know that shifts and increases in these things will create massive differences in your results. So what do you got, bud?
So we have number 1 is matching and mirroring of tone, words, auditory qualities, and body language.
Okay. So those 3 things, right? Tone, which we actually are changing to vocal qualities. I thought about it a lot, and I've studied this for a long time. I like using vocal qualities better. I'll come back to that in a second. Our words and our body language. Those 3 things are how we communicate. But most people don't think about them. Most people think that the words we say are our communication. The words we say are actually only 7% of our communication. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point too. When I reach out to a hospital, a surgery center, or one of the awesome people that I meet at the practice mastery dinners, to Sean's point, if it was just about the words I say, anybody could do my job. Anybody could do all of your jobs, right? If it was just about the words that you say on the marketing and those things. It has to do with the enthusiasm, the tone, the energy,
volume,
the ability, the volume, the ability to influence that you were bringing to the table. And it's this is everything. This is everything. These are the absolute fundamental drivers of any success that I have, independent of the industry that I'm in.
Yeah, and the thing that Greg does on the phone is only eclipsed in difficulty by what he and I are doing right now. We're talking into an invisible audience, right? We have nothing to react to. We have no idea. Like, we're not looking at people's faces. We're not getting feedback. So we're changing our volume. We're changing our pacing. We're using pauses, right? So let's really slow down. This slide is critical. And if you're not getting the Influence Mastery results that you're getting, we're now running into the checklist of where do we need to look?
Right.
So the first question is, where are your vocal qualities, right? And vocal qualities break down into, as Greg mentioned, and I mentioned, your volume. So, if you start talking like this, I'm telling you, this is amazingly important. Now, I lowered my volume. I paused, right? I did a couple different things there that were amazingly important. And it changed the dynamic of how you're perceiving me in that moment, right? And if I'm shifting over and speaking more loudly, like, hey, Greg, what's up, right? Like, that changed it as well. The ability to shift and move within the vocal qualities is a level 10 out of 10 in importance. And when I hear Greg talking to people on the phone, I hear Greg start to say something like, hey, it's Greg DiPietro, right? And then I'll change to, so I have something amazingly important and valuable to share with you. But first, I have a question. Pause, right? So the way we use pauses, inflection, tone, volume, all of these things are things that you need to begin to play with. You go, well, that's just not me. That's your fixed mindset talking. Kill it. Self-mastery, right, requires that we train our brain to respond on command. And if you're saying, I can't do that, you're lying to yourself, because you can. You just haven't practiced it. We all can. And that area of utilizing those elements in our communication can be the difference between people becoming completely bored and not want to have communication with us, or being sort of mesmerized by what we're sharing and we're talking to them in a live conversation. Initially, we write the words matching and mirroring. We need to be matching and mirroring those qualities of the people we're talking to individually. We need to be matching and mirroring. If you watch the State of the Union last night, right, like Trump or not like Trump, a lot of applause makes people feel pretty good. And the results and numbers were pretty good, right? So, and by the way, one of the principles of mastery is, like somebody or not, you have to look at the things that went well and didn't go well, right? When people are beginning to clap and match energy, if you watch some of what he did right, he did some things wrong, but some of what he did right was he began to increase his energy, tone, and pacing. He talked faster, right? And then maybe talk slower. That dance of energy is something we all need to practice regularly together and improve upon. And so when you first meet, so let's use an actual example. So let's say that Greg and I are meeting right now, and Greg is somebody that I'm having a meeting with, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and Greg is a busy chiropractor, and I really am interested in building a relationship with him. And I think I'm a pretty outstanding orthopedic surgeon, and I think that Greg's got a busy practice, and the guys that Greg's referring to, I think, I deserve a chance to show him that I might do a better, more caring job with his patients. So Greg's kind enough and decides to meet me. So let's go with you being a pretty monotone, sort of disconnected guy. And let's just look at some of the vocal qualities of matching and mirroring for a couple minutes here. Okay. So, hi, Greg. How are you?
Hey, Sean. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Very nice to see you. So what's going on, pal? How are you? Everything good? Right? I'm not matching and mirroring Greg.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous. Greg's going to feel put off. Greg's going to want to back up, right? And one of the challenges with learning to sell is people think you have to do some of those things. They don't understand the critical nuances. And if you go, well, that's common sense, I guarantee you there's elements of this that are not even close to common sense. You may be well aware not to do what I just did, but on the flip side, this might be what you do. So, hey, Greg, how are you?
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. So, I thank you for meeting me for lunch today. Yeah, it's a good restaurant, right, pal?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here a bunch of times.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what I was thinking about is, I think we do a really good job with patients, and I really think you should start referring to us.
Yeah, I mean,
that's ridiculous, right? Like that is the flip side of ridiculous.
I felt the energy fall out of my body.
Right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the flip side of this entire ridiculous process is that we don't want to be below the energy level.
Right.
But and you might go, that's obvious. Not to be over it, not to be under. But here's what becomes potentially not so obvious. And I want to put this out there for everybody. In the last 1,000+ meetings I have attended, I have failed to get to emotional rapport one time. And I remember it specifically. One of the weirdest situations ever. So I'm at a 99.99% rate of truly developing emotional rapport. And we're going to come to what emotional rapport means in a few minutes. That is in large part because of, first, fundamentally, my understanding of matching and mirroring. So, and I watch people all the time try to sell to me and do a god-awful job of it. And so the nuanced part of matching and mirroring is you not only want to meet the person where they are, you're matching their tone, their speed of speaking, their vocal qualities. You're also matching and mirroring the types of words they're using and the body language they have. Greg and I are sitting here right in this room, and he and I are gesturing, we're moving back and forth. There's things happening because we're engaged, right? So you want to be engaged in the way the person that you're talking to is. Now, but here's the key. You don't just want to stay where they are. You want to bring them with you to a higher place. Let me repeat that. You don't want to just meet them where they are. You want to bring them with you to a higher place. Okay? And so, go ahead, Greg.
And I just can't really emphasize how important that point that Sean just made is. You have to bring them to where you are. You have to be the tuning fork, right? Because if I didn't do that, if I wasn't able to help to influence their energy, to bring them to where I'm at, this means of marketing that I do would not bear so much fruit.
Absolutely.
It really wouldn't. It's very significant.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have any of the results we have. I mean, just for those that don't know, you've heard me say, please bear with me because I say this for credibility for the information. We have 110 people that work at the law firm. We collected $50 million for our clients last year, 50 million unpaid and underpaid claims from insurance companies. That doesn't include the $27 million jury verdict that we achieved and actually ended up settling that case and utterly destroying our adversaries by using integrity and truth-filled principles like this with juries in the courtroom, with the judge, so that we'd be heard and listened to. Yes, we were using principles of matching and mirroring. How could you match and mirror a jury? They don't talk back to you. You can match and mirror their stoic nature, and then make them laugh and make them smile slowly over time by matching and mirroring what you are perceiving them physically doing, and literally as you grow in this process to what they're thinking. I could tell you what people are thinking by sitting across from them. That's a level of mastery of matching and mirroring. And I'm not even kidding. I'm not a mind reader, but I can tell very quickly in 30 seconds what people are actually thinking, what they're feeling. And when you're really in tune with all this, that's where this goes. So let's move on, pal.
All right. We have number 2, level 3 listening.
Okay. Yeah. So the first indispensable element is matching and mirroring vocal qualities, body language, and tone.
Right.
And vocal qualities and body language are much more important than words we actually use. I didn't mention that. Mirroring words is important. So if Greg goes, "Hey, what a magnificent restaurant," I don't go, "Yeah, it's really cool." He didn't say it was really cool. He said it was magnificent, right? So matching and mirroring means we're using the same kind of words, especially if they're emotional words. So if Greg's like, "How you doing?" "I'm okay." "Oh, it's great to hear you're great." He says great. He says okay, right? And if he's like back to me, "And how you doing?" I'm doing okay. Trying to move towards great, but doing okay right now. Right? You want to match the person. Maybe put a little preconditioning pre-frame out there before you're going, but you want to be matching the person.
Right.
The second indispensable element is level 3 listening. Level 3 listening. This, if followed, will put millions of dollars into your pocket for the rest of your life. Millions of dollars into your pocket for the rest of your life. And if you're not looking to make millions, it will make people like you, want to be around you, feel connected to you in ways that you can't even begin to perceive.
I genuinely think that really good, deep, empathetic, level 3 listening are one of the highest qualities that you can get to in your own self-development, without question.
I agree.
Right.
I absolutely agree, brother. And so let's talk about what we're talking about. And by the way, you're like, where do you get all this stuff? I've read hundreds of books, listened to thousands of audios. I've paid about $500,000 now from my education in the world of personal development and coaching. Some of it was wasted. Some of it was good, and some of it was utterly unbelievable. I'm a certified coach, and my first introduction to the levels of listening was through my coaching certification program 17 years ago. So that's where I became connected to this. Now, level 3 listening means this. Let's first of all go through level 0, 1, and 2. Level 0 listening is, Greg, why don't you share with me who your favorite baseball team is?
The Yankees.
So just go, "Hey, Sean, I'm like, "Hey, Greg, who's your favorite baseball team?"
I like the Yankees.
"Yeah, you know what? I'm going to Grand Cayman next week." Right?
Yeah.
That's level 0 listening.
Right.
Like you're changing the subject. It has nothing to do with the other person. I could care less about you, Greg. Right? So let's do it again. "Hey, Greg, who's your favorite baseball team?"
Yankees.
"Cool. I like the Mets." Now that you might go with the first one, you might say, "Okay, I get I'm not going to change the subject, but what's wrong with saying I like the Mets?" Well, that's level 1 listening. That's level 1 listening. And that's still garbage. And it's garbage. And this may be the first really aha moment, hopefully for you. Simple aha moment. If you go, "I like this." Let's try it again. Hey, Greg, where's your favorite place to go on vacation?
Europe.
Awesome. I love Europe.
Okay.
I'm not relevant. We don't need to be talking about me. We are breaking our rapport building if we're taking the attention off of the other person and turning it back to ourselves. "Hey, Greg, I hear you like tennis. Who's your favorite player?"
Roger Federer.
oh, wow, I love Beyond Borg. Like, it has nothing to do with furthering my connection to Greg.
Right.
Because we're trying to empathetically and deeply listen, right? Hey, so how's your practice doing? Oh, my practice is doing great. Yeah, really awesome. Mine's doing great too. All level 1 listening, all garbage. Garbage, right? If you could take this, that's the simplest takeaway from today. You can become more conscious and aware of your matching and mirroring. Amazingly important to master. You could change from a level 0 or level 1 to level 3 listener today, just by becoming conditioned to it. It will change.
And the level of fulfillment you get too from genuinely seeing things deep from another person's perspective, I think is and seeing like the sense of validation and fulfillment that it gives them. It's a really nice, great thing, even if you're just doing it in your personal life, let alone how incredible it could be for your business. But it's a very significant way to establish very real rapport. And it's not just for the person you're listening to, it's for the listener as well.
Absolutely. And let's remember what we were talking about is certain indispensable elements of influence mastery, right? Or an indispensable sort of prerequisite is based in integrity. So as Greg said, like, we're not using this as a technique. We're using this to keep ourselves from being selfish, right? It's selfish of me to go, oh, I like the Mets. Greg was talking. Sharing likes the Yankees. Like, okay, I'm going to change the subject and take it back to me. That's self-focused. And that's not something that endears people to us at the highest level. So let's go to level 2. So Greg goes, hey, Greg, what's your favorite baseball team?
Yankees.
Cool, man. Great to hear you like the Yankees.
Yeah.
It's level 2. Level 2 is basically mirroring back exactly what you're hearing. He said, wait a minute, you said to mirror. Yeah, I did. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. But it's not nearly as good, right? Not nearly as good as level 3. Way better than level 1, because now we're still on Greg, right? So let me give you a demonstration of level 3 listening, right? So let's change it up a little bit so I get a little more information and say, hey, Greg, why do you like working at Callagy Law? Well, seriously, honestly, totally integrity filled. Be in state. Pretend we're just talking, you and I. Hey, bud, just talk to me. Like, why do you like working? Why do you like working with me? Why like working here?
Well, I mean, you and I personally have a great friendship, and that's really something that I enjoy and I value in my life. I just really like a lot of my coworkers, the energy in the firm. I mean, there's not one person who I even don't enjoy interacting with. Everybody here, we've done a lot of company outings. It's like everybody, the fact that I'm hanging out with these are people who I would individually, personally like to hang out with. Oh, and they happen to be my coworkers, right? I love being a part of a company that's continually being successful. I like what I do personally. There's always a huge jolt of adrenaline, of what we call it, dopamine, when I'm setting up something and being successful, and sharing that with Sean, sharing that with other people in the firm who have a reciprocal type of energy and know that they're going to build on it. So there's a lot. I could go on and on.
Yeah. So that sounds amazing. Quick clarifying question is, what does it do for you personally, truly personally? How does it make you feel when you are succeeding here at the things that you're doing?
It makes me feel like I am succeeding in life. It makes me feel as if I'm part of something that's significant and real and fulfilled. It makes me feel fulfilled.
Okay. So can you hear the shift in the energy? Right? So now I'm gonna as I asked a level 3 type question because I heard Greg talking about a lot of things. He touched on himself. Then I want to go deeper into himself. Now here's my level 3. I was listening at level 3, but here's my demonstration of it, right? So Greg, that's amazing. What I'm hearing is that working at Callagy Law is fun. It gives you tremendous connection to people that believe in the same things that you believe in. And potentially, most importantly, it gives you such a sense of pride and fulfillment and significance to uniquely do something really tremendously special at Callagy Law, right? And that's like a core element of your fulfillment in life. Am I hearing that correctly?
Without question.
Okay. Now you go, wait a minute. He didn't say all that. No, he didn't. But he did.
Right.
He said in his tone, his vocal qualities, his body language, right? His pauses, as he said, It makes me feel, pause, fulfilled. He said all that. And Greg, when I mirrored that, now we're in role playing, right? With people listening to us in the webinar.
Right.
How did it feel, even with that artificial quality to it? How did it feel when I was able to mirror back to you at a deep level what I heard you saying?
It felt as if he was. It's like you're going within yourself a little bit, getting to the deeper elements, right, of your why to an extent. And it felt as if he was almost like touching that part to an extent. He was getting to that level of depth.
Right. Do you feel our deepest level of connection, you and I personally, on this webinar yet, right now, at this moment?
Our deepest level of connection yet right now?
During the webinar. Like the webinar started.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. And that's the power of level 3 listening. Start practicing today your matching and mirroring, and the second indispensable element of your level 3 listening. Level 3 listening is inferential listening. Let's try another quick example, right? So let's pretend that there's something that's, irritating you a little bit.
Okay.
Right? And put that in your tonal response a bit. Like, hey, Brad, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's wrong? That's level 3 listening.
Yeah.
Right there.
Uh-huh.
Hey, what's wrong? You all right, pal?
Right.
It's showing empathy. Level 3 listening is inferential listening with empathy. Right? You're listening for what the person is saying, not saying, really going on, and there's empathy. The other day, true story, right? And the power of this. You want to ask, like, people come to the practice mastery and they repeatedly say, how is it that your team is like so connected, so energized? Well, I will tell you, folks, it wasn't always that way. I was not the leader I am today a year ago. I'm not the leader I am today 5 years ago. And I'm going to be a much better leader a year from today. That's growth mindset. And that's influence mastery growth. And the reason it is because I've in the last year made an absolute, listen, I put my leadership skills at a very high level against the curve. This is another beautiful way to think about mastery for yourselves. You could always rate yourself against the curve and go, well, wait a minute. My practice is pretty darn successful. I'm more successful than most. I'm about a 9 out of 10 in comparison to most people, right? And my answer to that would be, that's terrific. But where are you on the scale of what's possible? So a lot of times we'll be like, hey, compared to other law firms, we're like a 9.8, 9.9 in terms of passion, energy. I'd say 9.99 actually, right? But that's not the standard. The standard is, where are we in terms of what's possible? And then I would say we're operating maybe more like an 8.5, 9. And got a lot of room for growth because there's a lot of difference between a 9 and 9.5, 9.8. Good.
I was just going to ask you, Sean, do you think a good litmus test here for that would be to ask yourself the question, am I better than I used to be?
Absolutely. Right? Like life is progress, right? That's what life is. Fulfillment is progress. Totally agree, Greg.
Right.
And that's why, and we'll talk about it more in the self-mastery and the other, we're going to have a webinar on mastery by itself, and how we journal and do things. But yes, capturing that process of growth is utterly critical. Right. And the other day, so I promise you, we do the things I'm talking about. I promise you that we have insane levels of connection, synergy with people here. And I promise you that almost everybody I meet, right, if it's a one-on-one meeting, the person wants to become my client, be my friend, be my partner, right? Because they experience a very unique level of connection, right? Because I care. I care about other people and their well-being, right? I care about it so much. Sometimes I've screwed up boundaries and become overwhelmed. That's a story for a different day, right? But the ability to connect at a very real level and be very present also makes me late all the time, right? And I got to work on that. So I'm always very conscious of things I want to grow in. And I am trying to grow in that area, but I become very present with people. And it's very hard to break away because I care about being so authentic and connected. So at level 3 listening the other day, one of the attorneys here was walking by, head was down. He's one of the partners in family law. He's a great guy, Brian. And he just walked by me, and I could tell he was in pain, right? And I was super busy, and he walked by, and he was like 4 doors down. And I walked to his office, said, "Bri," I said, "You okay, brother?" He's like, yeah, everything's okay. And I could tell he didn't want to go into a long conversation, whatever. I said, "Can I give you a hug?" He's like, "Yeah." I gave him a big hug, a genuine squeeze. I want to say, if you want to talk, I'm here. Call me anytime, later, whatever. And like, he almost looked like he had deep resonating emotion in his tone, right? Like he needed to feel another human being felt his pain and it was cared about. That's level 3 listening. These are all examples of level 3 listening. Seeing what's going on, telling people, I see you. There's a great video. The last episode, you want to hear about level 3 listening? Go watch the YouTube video of Oprah's last show ever. She said she became a billionaire because she was able to have people feel heard, cared about, that they mattered, that they were real, that they were there, right? That's what level 3 listening is all about, that empathy and connection. Right. Next one. And we are going to go a little bit over, of course, because it's me, and we're always going to go a little bit over. So go ahead.
Next, we have congruent energy.
All right. So this is related to matching and mirroring, but I say it as a separate step, right? A separate indispensable element, not a step, an indispensable ingredient to influence mastery, because we have to remember to maintain our congruent energy. So congruent energy means, if I'm saying to you, hey guys, I'm really excited to be talking to you. These are topics that really matter. They're really important. I don't have congruent energy. If I'm like, guys, this is so utterly important. I can't stress to you enough the power in the things that we are sharing with you today, what it's done for my life, what it's done for the lives of other people here, what it's done for clients that I've coached in the past, what it's done for my client in Arizona that would tell you I saved his life literally. The gentleman that I got the top 100 surety verdict for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's congruent energy, where I'm speaking about the topic and my tone is matching my own tone, right? My own vocal qualities, my own words, and my own body language is matching each other. So as I'm talking and I'm pausing and I'm thinking of how to resonate deep, but Greg's watching, my hands are flying all over the place because it matters what I'm saying. I care about what I'm saying, massively. That's congruent energy. When your vocal qualities, your words, and your body language match. Matching and mirroring is about the other person. This is about our own words when we're speaking. Okay?
Yep.
Next.
Then we have energy transference and synergy.
Okay. So another indispensable element of practice mastery is if I have this congruent energy, I'm listening empathetically at level 3, and I met Greg at whatever levels, let's say he was at level 5 on a scale of 1 to 10 of energetic engagement. It's pulling the other person with us. Influence is about an energetic transfer. I am not doing, and by the way, doing the webinar is hard. This is our first one. I'm not promising this is the greatest webinar that you've ever been on in terms of the stylistic qualities. I'm promising this is rock star content. We're going to get better every time at delivering an experience for you. If we're not delivering an experience for you, we're not doing our job, right? So we're working on it. We're trying our best, and we're going to make it better every single time. But if we're not transferring energy to you where you're feeling differently than when you first got on this, we're failing. And we're not going to fail forever. We're going to do better. But I have a feeling that we've transferred some energy, and we're going to get better at that transfer every single time. But in our communication today, when the next person you communicate with, ask yourself the question of where were their states? Where was their energy when you first said hello? And was it higher when you were done? So go ahead, Greg.
I think that could just be great for doctors and their patients as well to further enhance their relationship with the patients and making them feel totally heard and appreciated, in addition to be given great care upon leaving the office, right? I think that's so valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And it's critically important when a doctor talks to his office manager. When the doctor walks past his front desk leader, his front desk driver. When the doctor, by the way, I believe in transformational vocabulary, so I didn't say his girl or something like that, right? And I say that word disrespectfully on purpose because I hear people use that kind of language, like, oh, my billing girls or something. Like, guys, if that's how we're talking, or even ladies, that's how we're talking, we want to be empowering our people and empowering our team. We'll get to that in a different call, but we're definitely not transferring positive energy. Like, oh, how are my billing girls doing today? Like, that is not a positive energy transference, right? So everywhere we're going, we're asking, when we talk to the waiter in the restaurant or the waitress, did we change their energy, right? When we talk to our children or our business partners or people we're selling to, oh my God, sales requires energy. We'll talk more about that in the next webinar. But if we're not transferring energy, we're nowhere. Right. Next. And we're talking about how to do these things as well, right, in more detail, but we're introducing them today.
So number 5, we have mastery of when and how to use open and closed-ended questions.
I mean, you want to talk about, like, all 5 of these are called indispensable because they're each indispensable. There's such a differential between me being like, oh, Greg, so, do you like the Yankees? And Greg's like, no, I hate the Yankees. Like, hey, okay. Hey, do you like fishing? Like, no. Just answer me with no's. Do you like fishing?
No.
Oh. Hey, do you like pizza?
Nah.
Do you feel the disconnection? Hey, Greg, do you like, hey, you like ice cream?
Nah, I like to try to eat healthy.
Think of how dead our communication is. Closed-ended questions are the death of communication. Now, there's a time to use them. Okay, there is a time to use them, but it is not in the process of building rapport. And if we're using them at the wrong time, we're in deep trouble, right? So as we go through the 4 steps of influence mastery, these are the 5 indispensable elements. These are the elements that you must have in mind as you go through the steps. We're not doing the steps today. The steps are the next webinar. But these 5, you need to be practicing in between now and our next webinar next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Because if we're not maintaining these 5, the steps get all screwed up. And those 4 steps we're going to introduce today, but we have to be aware of, are we using a closed-ended question now or an open-ended question now? And open-ended questions are who, what, when, why, and how. Who, what, when, why, how, where, right? These are open-ended questions because they have an answer other than yes or no. Yes or no's get us in deep trouble. And in building a relationship, we only want to ask a closed-ended question when we know the answer is going to be yes. We do not want to ask questions that we don't know the answer to. You're like, wait a minute, isn't that a lawyer principle? It is. But it's also a human connection principle. And God, by the way, guys, I'll make you a bet now. We're talking about stuff you're not hearing every day. I'm going to make you a bet. I'm talking about things that some of this stuff you've never heard of before in your life. And certainly you're not implementing. And hopefully we've begun to introduce today. We're not done yet, but hopefully we've begun to introduce the quality of knowledge and information that we're going to be bringing to you through practice mastery. And this is just the beginning of discussing influence mastery, just the beginning. The power of using these open and closed-ended questions is going to really be manifested a lot more in our next webinar. But if you're not cognizant and aware of, am I using closed now or open or what am I doing, you will not be able to pull off the steps. So all 5 of these elements are indispensable. Next, Greg.
So a recap, there are 5 indispensable elements to influence mastery.
Yeah, give us a good little loudness guide. Let's
Sure.
see which one.
Yeah, so as just a recap, there are 5 indispensable elements to influence mastery. Number 1 being matching and mirroring. Number 2 being level 3 listening. 3, congruent energy. 4, energy transference. And 5, mastery of questions.
This is your takeaway cheat sheet slide. Copy this, know what this is, and have this with you every day for the next 7 days. And be practicing these components, these essential elements to influence mastery. If you're not cognizant of these, when we begin to deal with the 4 steps next time, you're going to be like, oh, this doesn't work. And it does. You're just not aware. You're losing the indispensable elements. And you haven't mastered them yet. So don't think because you've listened to this webinar, remember the rules of engagement we talked about earlier. You've got to not only learn it, you got to practice it. And if you practice this and are aware of this as a component to your existence for the next 12 months, all of these things we're talking about, and even let's start with just the next week, you will not believe the transition of your ability to connect with other people. If you just start matching and mirroring, if you just start maintaining congruent energy, listening at level 3, dealing with energy transference, and you play in open-ended questions of really how, why, what, where, just play with that and watch how people connect to you in a very different way.
And just doing what Sean just said, you could probably learn more about people whom you thought that you knew so well. They'll probably spill out information that you never even knew about just when you show a greater level of genuine interest in who they are, where they're coming from, and what they're talking about.
And guess, totally agree, Greg. Right. Awesome. And here's the like the magical component to this. You're giving people a gift. A gift. Because most people don't have people in their life that listen to them, that hear them, right? Everybody is so busy fighting for their turf, right? In intimate relationships, it's, you know, this restaurant or that restaurant, or, you know, what time we do this or that. It's all kinds of completely insane situations that people devolve into. In dealing with our children, we're so often giving them advice and requiring them to do things and telling them what they're doing wrong. Like in our friendships, with our parents, with our, you know, friends, like people that work for us, like we're not hearing them, and nobody is hearing them. And if you're the person that begins to hear them, they are going to build such a deep connection, because they're like, I love talking to Greg. I love talking to Greg. Like, I don't even know why. And if somebody loves talking to you, it's because you're great at these 5 indispensable elements already. But it could even get higher, and it could even get higher, and it can even get higher. That is the power of what we're talking about. And that's the basis of building our sales, our marketing, our inspired team, everything that's going on. A little while ago, Tiffany's sitting here flipping the slides. And I've been really aggressive and really focused and really driven lately, trying to bring some major outcome shifts. So there's some self-mastery, pattern disruption things that I'm dealing with internally in the firm. And I'm sure that that's wearing on Tiffany at some level. So before we started the webinar today, I said, hey, Tiffany, I level 3 listened, even without her saying a word. I said, listen, I know I've been really direct. I've been really aggressive. It's because I believe in you. It's because you're doing a great job. It's because you work incredibly hard. It's because I know that if we can increase your leverage to get other people driven to do certain things that are important, that they got to do their job if you do your job, that your benefits that you're going to experience and we're going to experience can be even greater. So I listened at level 3. And Tiffany, did that feel good? Honestly.
Yes, it did.
Right. And it made you probably feel a little differently today, right?
Yes.
It made you stop, probably like me a little bit better than you were before I said that today. True or false?
Truthfully, yes.
Absolutely. Right. And she's laughing because it's totally genuine, right? Totally genuine. So as we're looking to do these things, it's understanding how all this is fitting together and working, right? How this is all fitting together and working. So we got next. We're going to wrap in 5 minutes, guys, by the way. 5-minute warning. Stay with us. Here we go.
So what happens if any are missing?
Any are missing, it doesn't work, right? So if congruent energy is out, it doesn't work. If you're using closed-ended questions when you should be using open-ended, you could be as matching and mirroring as you like, and you're going to destroy the entire situation. You're going to break the connection. It's not going to work. So every one of those has to be a part of your awareness and your improvement. And I guarantee you, some of you, probably most of you, have no clue where you are with any of those 5. But even if you're already incredibly masterful, truly, there's another level. Truly, there is to it. Yep. Next.
Whoa. we have a sandwich here.
All right. So a little bit of fun, a little pattern interrupt. It's called pattern disruption.
I can't read that sandwich.
You can't read that sandwich. So what?
Okay.
So what that means is that, right, what happens if anything's missing? The cake doesn't look like the cake, right? So we have eggs, we have flour, right?
That's why I thought it was a sandwich.
That's why we thought it was a sandwich, right? Because if there's ingredients missing, then obviously, right? Exactly. And that's what happens if there are ingredients missing. You have an utter disaster. Next.
So with those indispensable elements present, what are the 4 steps to influence mastery?
Okay, so the 4 steps to influence mastery are, shall we?
Here we go.
All right.
So number 1 is to create emotional rapport.
Right. I'll take it from there, but so create emotional rapport. This is where we're picking up with the next webinar, but there's a couple more things I want to share with you before we close. So the way this is going to fit in is emotional rapport is the first indispensable step. That's what opens up the lines of communication between human beings. The second step is eliciting people's pain points and yes strategies, because unfortunately, people don't act to gain pleasure. And that's one of the great mistakes. People act to avoid pain. It has to do with our amygdala, our fight or flight response that's been evolved over thousands of years, no matter what your belief structure is, right? It causes us to only act when we're trying to avoid pain, and we could help people shift that to take actions that are in their best interest. Third is building a heroic and powerful, unique identity that we're conveying into help solve people's pain and connect to their yes strategy. And finally, agreement formation. That fourth step, that's what other people call closing. We don't talk about closing within our results formula and practice mastery because it's manipulative, it's painful, it's not nice. We talk about the agreement formation process, but utterly critical, because a lot of times we'll have deep connections with people and people won't end up following through and doing what they said because they had unvoiced objections that we didn't get to. We didn't know why they weren't acting. We didn't finish the educational process. They weren't acting upon what we were discussing. And so next webinar, we're going to discuss each and every single one of these 4 elements in great detail. And our next live session, we're not done, but our next live session, I'll keep repeating it, is going to be at the Crown Plaza in Edison on February 13th. And we are going to practice these components of influence mastery while you're building relationships and hopefully generating new business for yourself by meeting awesome people. So we're going to practice both the indispensable elements, right? Because they're layered on top of this 4-step process. So next slide real quick. Promise we got like 2 minutes to go.
So we're going to pick up here on webinar 2 next Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, next Wednesday, 5 p.m., we're going to pick up right at this spot with the 4 steps to influence mastery. You'll be hearing from us on how to get onto that webinar. I'm also asking you to please do us a favor and please spread the word. Please spread the word about practice mastery. Please spread the word about influence mastery. And by the way, about the webinars, and do it for yourself. Because if you're connecting people to this content and you're finding people who believe in what you believe, it creates much deeper relationships, referral relationships, brainstorming, accountability structures. Do not minimize the fact that if you're connected to other people within practice mastery and you guys talk about these principles, it's going to create an accelerant to the results that you're producing in your business. So please invite people, bring anybody that you want to, that's in a healthcare, type position, somebody you want to refer to, spend the time with them. Doing these exercises, you're going to build a much deeper bond and connection, I promise. And do not please miss the next webinar. With this webinar, send it to other people. Say, check this out. I got a lot of benefit. We'll figure out, you'll get information about how to forward the webinar and what to do with it, where it's going to be. Tiffany will be handling that. But what we got next, Greg?
Before we recap, we have a map.
Right. Okay. So we have a map. I'm gonna move through this very quickly. This is another way of saying, we talk about the cake. Like, there's a map, and it's a treasure map, I think, right, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. So there's treasure on this map. The whole notion of practice mastery and influence mastery is how to get yourself from where you are to the gold, to the treasure chest, right? And there's an X marks the spot on the map. The map is not the territory, however, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff that exists between where you start and where you get to that X. And that X that's on the screen is not the actual treasure. As you're out there encountering the world, you're going to meet all kinds of hurdles, objections, obstacles. Practice mastery is designed to give you the tools, the boat, help you assemble the crew. You need food. You need water. Like, dude, if you don't have water on the boat and you're going after that thing, you got some very angry people in that boat, like doing bad things to each other. Agreed?
Absolutely.
You're never getting there. So there's going to be things that you're going to need as indispensable elements you're going to learn through practice mastery. And then there's going to have the need to be how you get from where you are to the actual X marks the spot to uncover the treasure. And that's really what practice mastery is, as well as all of the subcomponents like influence mastery. Influence mastery, to keep using this analogy, influence mastery might be how do you put the crew together, right, for the boat? How do you convince the crew to keep going? How do you convince the crew to, in the middle of a storm, not flip out? Right? How did you convince somebody to fund your treasure hunting operation in the first place? Columbus had to talk to Queen Isabella, I guess it was, to convince them to let him go on, sailing away. So all these influence mastery. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you beat the other competitors to get the treasure first?
Absolutely.
Right.
All part of it. 100%. Yeah. Next.
And there's the treasure.
Right. And so when we're done with this whole thing, right? In Greg's best game show voice, right? Mr. Treasure, right? And by the way, I'm going to thank our, Nicole, who did a great job, Nicole Maiello, in coming up with some of these pictures. And we only decided to put the pictures in kind of late in the game to just have a little bit of fun and shift to give you a little bit more of an experience. We're going to be bringing a lot of additional components. Nicole's my executive assistant who's in the room. Tiffany's here as well, who's driving our marketing process internally. And we want to have fun, right? We want to talk about having fun. We want to drive this entire process forward. The live event in Edison, we're expecting 100 plus people to be there. We had somewhere, upwards with our team and everybody else of 80, 90 people to Capitol Grill. The room at Edison is going to be much, much larger. Let's go next slide.
Let us run your free treasure hunt and deliver.
Yeah, so that's our quick commercial. Guys, let us come in and review what's going on inside your practice in terms of getting money. So, we're delivering a lot of energy, a lot of content, a lot of value. Let us go find your money. Every time that we look, we want to give you that peace of mind that you're getting all the money you should, even if you have the greatest billing staff in the world or outside billing company, the best people imaginable. There's things they can't do, right? We're a second set of eyes, and we're also a legal arm that can do things they can't. We work hand in hand with your internal people, your outside billing companies. They're a lot of our best relationships in the world. It's literally insane not to help look and, for what's out there, to give you that peace of mind that everything is being recovered that possibly can. It is all for free that we do that review. And a lot of the recovery is for free. Certain things would be at a cost, but the review is absolutely free. Let us come in and please do that for you. Contact our office, 201-261-1700, 201-261-1700. You can ask for Tom LaGreca. You could ask for Greg DiPietro. You could ask for me, Sean Callagy. Any of us would be great people to talk to initially, and we'll get this going for you. Next.
Context recap.
All right. So go ahead and keep going.
What are the 3 indispensable elements to creating all results?
3 indispensable elements creating all results are process mastery, influence mastery, and self-mastery. Next.
How do we know what results to go after?
Our wheels, right? We're using our wheels. They were in your packet from the last Influence Mastery. They help us set it up. We talked about it a little bit in session 1B in the Crown Plaza. We're going to use our wheels in a little bit more depth than we did last time. Next.
What are the 3 components of the results formula?
Right, which we just discussed. So let's keep going.
Correct. What are the 5 indispensable elements of Influence Mastery?
Okay, we've said those multiple times today, but that involves understanding that we're going to be with integrity. We're going to have congruent energy, energy transference, the powerful elements to level 3 listening, and knowing when to use closed and open-ended questions. Next.
All right. Destroy your fixed mindset. Growth. Use this.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, everything is about practicing. And if you're like, this is just a little bit overwhelming, of course it's overwhelming. You haven't done it yet. But I could literally be in a communication with any human being in the world, and I could say what's out of whack for them in terms of this process because I've done it so many times. So as you're doing it, I promise it's like the learning curve in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in Influence Mastery is going to be utterly ridiculous if you practice every day. It's going to be staggering. You're going to start to watch people in communication and be like, oh my God, I want to help them. Like, it's so screwed up. You're going to also feel like you're touching other human beings, connecting with a deeper level, making people feel happy, feel amazing. Like we have so much fun. I'm sitting in a car. Let's say I'm, with a driver, I'm Ubering or I'm doing something like that with my vision. I don't drive anymore. And all of a sudden the person's like crying to me, talking about issues with their son and the challenge they're having. And you go, wait, you want to make a person cry? No, I want to make a person feel connected to and feel heard. And you get out of the car and they're like, thank you for talking. It happens all the time. It's such a gift that we can give to people. And yeah, we can make a lot of money doing this. We have a lot of amazing benefits, but it's not about money in the end. Money's wonderful, and that's a part of what we're doing in Practice Mastery is helping you get more money. But much more importantly, we're helping you gain a deeper level of meeting your human needs and of fulfillment, and those individual human needs of certainty, uncertainty, growth, contribution, connection, significance. Those are the things that we want, especially that connection. And Influence Mastery is all about creating connection with other people. Next. Connection means love, by the way.
To gain value from Practice Mastery or anything, what must we do?
We got to practice it. We got to take our notes and listen to the growth mindset. So let's keep going. So we're going to try to wrap this up.
Let's have a world-class week until we meet again next Wednesday for webinar 2, the 4-step communication process.
Absolutely. Go crank it. Put it out there. Use this. Practice it. Write it down. See how you're doing. Be on 5 p.m. next week for our next webinar. And please get ready to invite people, bring people to Influence Mastery in Crown Plaza Edison. Our true goal is to be over that 100-person mark. Incredible energy. Building this amazing process of growth, fulfillment, integrity, and honestly, bottom line, putting dollars in your pocket, right? But that's not all we're doing. We're doing a lot more than that, but we want to put dollars in people's pockets right away in terms of helping you grow your practice. Thanks, everybody, and have a fantastic, fantastic day.
Thank you.